Well, hey there, and welcome to Hope Church Online, and welcome to Easter at Hope. My name is Alex, and I'll be your host for this service, and I'm so excited to be able to spend a little bit of our day together here today. I want to let you know, at the end of our 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 4 o'clock services here today, we have our Hope Kids services that will be happening at the end of our service. And if you're watching our 6 o'clock service online, then we'll have our Student Hope service at the end of that service as well. So we have something for the whole entire family that we're really, really excited about. And listen, while I've got you here, I want to let you know about a few of the features that we have available here at our online platform. So if you look to the right side of your screen, you'll see first a chat column. There on the chat column, you'll be able to dialogue with our host team. They'll be so excited to be able to chat with you. Immediately to the right of that, you'll find a notes section. And inside of that notes section, you'll find a preloaded outline of today's message that you can alter as you see fit. You can also add your own notes as you're taking notes, and you can then export that into a PDF after the service is over. Immediately to your right of that, you'll find a Bible, a digital Bible that you can take full advantage of during today's message as well. If you would like to support the ministries of Hope Church, you can do so by clicking the Give button at the top right of your screen to further our impact in our community, in our state, and in our world. We're so excited about the service today. Why don't you grab a seat, and we'll get started in just a moment. Well, hey there, and welcome to Hope Church Online, and welcome to Easter at Hope. My name is Alex, and I'll be your host for the service. And if this is your very first time viewing a Hope Church Online experience, then we would love to get connected with you. And the best way that we can do that is for you to fill out a digital connection card, which can be found to the right of this screen. We have a great service plan for you here today, so why don't you go ahead and stand up wherever you are. Let's engage in worship together.
Wasn't for nothing that you shed your blood. So I'm gonna live like my shame is gone. I won't be shackled to the way I was. So I'm gonna live like my chains are gone. Gone. Now my sin is dead and gone, and I sing hallelujah. Oh, done. He is risen, it is done, and I sing hallelujah. So I'm gonna shout like the battle's won. Yeah, fall back, devil, 'cause your time is up. So I'm gonna live like the stone is gone, gone. Now my sin is dead and gone, and I sing hallelujah. Oh, done, done. He is risen and it's done, and I sing hallelujah. Yeah, how great the power of the blood. like a sound of a symphony to my ears, like holy water. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips, like the sound of a symphony to my ears, like holy water on my skin. Yes, like holy water on my skin, like holy water.
Right now, I want to welcome everybody to Easter at Hope Church. We are so excited to have you with us. I want to welcome everybody as well to Hope Church Online. We are so excited to have you with us today. No matter where this message finds you at today, this week, we are just so excited for you to spend Easter with us here at Hope Church. I believe that God has something really special for you today. I don't think it's by chance that you've tuned in today. Really, for us, and really for the Christian church all over the world, Easter is really kind of the pinnacle of what we do. It's kind of Super Bowl weekend for the church, and so we're excited for you to tune in to be part of this huge day for us. You say, well, why is it such a huge day? Because literally our entire faith kind of hinges on the celebration of Resurrection Sunday. If it isn't for Easter, if it isn't for Resurrection Sunday, then our faith is really hinged on a really good man who lived a really good life, who was a really good model of how we should live, who taught us some really good things, but ultimately died. And so there are many faiths that have their ideas wrapped up in a man who taught us some good things, who ultimately died, but our faith is not in a man like that. Our faith and our hope is in the fact that God sent his very own son, Jesus, into this world to live among us, to live with us, but to not live like us, to live a perfect life, a sinless life. He came to invade this earth on a rescue mission for my life and your life, to rescue us from our sin. And he was so serious about that he freely gave up himself on a cross. He shed his blood for you and I. He was put into a tomb where he was buried dead. And on the third day, through the power of God, God victoriously resurrected him from a grave. And so our faith is not in just some good guy who taught us good things. Our faith is in the very fact that our Savior, our Lord, has risen from the grave. And through him today, we can have a relationship with God. And that's our hope today. That's my hope for you today. No matter where you are today, again, no matter where this message finds you, that you would come to understand today that there is a God in heaven who loves you. And the hope we have is in what Jesus has done for each and every one of us. I think right now, just where we're at in our world and our culture, I think Easter in most churches has kind of been scaled back a little bit. And so again, as I told you before, kind of being Super Bowl weekend for the church, usually every year it's kind of a big production and kind of a big show. And I think this year, I think God's got to be really pleased with just the circumstance of where we are. Because I think this year it's forcing the message of Easter to be exactly what it is. It's just the simple good news, the simple gospel message. That's what the gospel is. It's the good news of what Jesus has done for us. And I think the good news doesn't have to be wrapped up with fireworks and pyrotechnics and a huge production. The simple truth can be told in a very simple way. When you've had your life changed by something, when you've experienced a good restaurant or you found a good deal online, you don't have to get with a bullhorn or have some fireworks to tell your friends or neighbors about something that's changed your life or a great experience. It's the same thing when it comes to the hope of Jesus. We don't need some huge bullhorn and some huge production just to tell you the simple hope of what God has for your life. We've been saying the last few weeks that as our circumstances in our world are kind of crazy right now, we said that as a church people, as a church family, as the body of Christ, right, the followers of Jesus, we've been called to be dispensers of hope. We've been called to literally be hope dealers, right? It's kind of what we talked about. Maybe you've heard some other pastors say that. And we believe, like, when it comes to dealing hope, like, we got the really good stuff. Like, we got the best stuff in the world. And so my prayer for you or for anyone else that you know is for anyone who's searching for hope today. My prayer today is that you would find ultimately what it is that you're searching for in Jesus Christ alone. If I could be honest with you today, I think a good segment of our world is searching for hope. They're searching for meaning. They're searching for a purpose. In fact, I would say for many of us today, probably for all of us today that are tuning in, I think all of us are looking for something. We're constantly searching for something. It's that unrest that we constantly feel within our souls. I was reminded this week of the band U2. If you guys are familiar with U2 and Bono, they sang a song years ago that I think is so relevant to today. And the song was simply titled, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And I think if there could be a song that's written about our life, I think it's so true for many of us. When it comes to life, I think we're all kind of in a desperate pursuit of searching for something. Something to satisfy, something to gratify this ache that we have within us. And I don't care who you are today, you can fill in the blank. All of us are searching for something. We're searching for value, for worth, for significance, to be loved, right? For hope, for peace, for purpose. I mean, fill in the blank today. Again, I don't care who you are, how successful you are. I don't care how long you've been a follower of Jesus. I don't care about your past. All of us are searching and longing for something. You know how I know that it's true? Because that's why many of us work jobs, and I'm not saying that I do, but some of us today work jobs that we absolutely hate. Some of you hate your job. You hate going into work. You hate what you do, but let's be honest. It provides a lifestyle that allows you to feel a certain way, that gives you a certain feeling, that sometimes makes you maybe feel better than someone else, gives you an advantage to someone else. You like what you have, and you like the lifestyle, and so you continue in this pursuit of working this job that's miserable, that makes you stressed out all the time, because it allows you a lifestyle that you actually enjoy. Some of you right now, how I know we're searching for something, and some of you are in a relationship right now that you know is the wrong relationship. You know it. You know you're with the wrong person. You know that you are. I'm talking about people who are in a dating relationship today. You're in a dating relationship, and you know this person is not the right person for me, but you know what? In your heart and in your spirit, you don't want to be alone, because you're longing and you're searching to have an intimacy with someone, to be loved and cared for. And so what you do is you'll settle. You know what I know for many of us? If it's not in relationships, if it's not in our work or in money, for many of us, it's just something like shopping, right? I mean, we'll go out and we'll buy things because buying things makes us feel better about ourselves. It allows us to escape. It allows us to numb. It allows us kind of a temporary high, a momentary fix, right? And so we're constantly searching, and we're willing to even pay for things to make us feel a certain way. I can remember back early in my high school days, I probably started in middle school, began to creep into high school. I don't know about you, but I really didn't know who I was. And I didn't know in my life who I was at that time. And so when you don't know who you are, you start to search for things and ways to try to prove yourself. And so in middle school and high school and even into college, I began to search for ways to kind of prove who I was, to prove my self-worth. And it led me to doing things that I never intended to do. And I think some of you today can begin to relate. In our endless pursuit of searching for something in life, of trying to find some significance, trying to find something to gratify our souls, it's led many of us to accept jobs and take on things and take on more responsibility and get in relationships. It's allowed us to do things that we haven't always intended to do. And so again, I want us to just think for just a moment as we're beginning our conversation today on this Resurrection Sunday, on this Easter Sunday. I want to start today by asking you a question. A question that I really believe that you got to begin to wrestle with today, because inside of all of us, there is something that I think is eating away inside of us. And until we can get to that, to the source of that, I really think for us, we'll continue to struggle, we'll continue to be exhausted, and we'll continue to look and search. And so I want to start with a question today. If you want to take some notes with us, you can. If you're on our online platform, we actually have a notes section there. You can follow along. If you're listening on our app later this week, we put all of our notes in our app or online. But I want to start with this question right here. What are you searching for? I want to start here because this is really the foundation of where we're going today in our conversation. Until you can begin to identify what you're really searching for, then you and I will never really be able to identify what it is that we actually really need. What is it that you're searching for? And this has been my prayer for you. And I know you say, Tad, this is a little bit kind of a sick and twisted prayer, but this is the truth. My prayer is that this question right here would eat you alive. Like what I don't want you to do today is for you to tune into this message, hear a question like this and just tune me out. Like I pray that during Easter lunch today, I know Easter lunch will look a little different this year. We won't have everybody over that you had over before. But I pray like as you're eating your meal, the question in your head is about what you're searching for. I pray that when you go to bed tonight and you lay your head down, that you are tormented by this question right here. You say, Tad, why? Because until you and I can begin to identify what it is that we're searching for, then we'll never be able to identify what it is that we really, really need. So you can fill in the blank today. What is it that you're searching for? Happiness? You're searching for some sort of significance, some sort of hope, some sort of meaning. Again, I don't care who you are. This message is not for everyone else. It's not for your spouse or your kids or whatever other random person. This is for you. What is it that you are searching for? What is it that you are longing for? What is it that you're looking for in this life? Affection, purpose, meaning, value, success. What is it that you are longing for in this life? I'm here to tell you that you will never find what you are searching for. Looking out in this world, looking to the next possession, the next job, the next purchase, the next house, the next car, the next relationship. You will never find what you are searching for. Continue to look for these things. But I want you to know the good news today. The simple hope and good news of Jesus is that in Jesus, you can have everything you are longing for. Everything you are searching for and more is found in him and him alone. But can I tell you the problem? The problem is that so many of us have this default setting within our souls, within our own spirits, that we continue to search for all of the right things in all of the wrong places. Can we just identify that as truth today? That so many of us are looking for all the right things and we're searching in all the wrong places. I remember back in 1980, that's when I was born. That may make some of you feel really old today. But back in 1980, there was a song, it's kind of a classic now, written by a guy named Johnny Lee. And it was a song that said, looking for love in all the wrong places. Y'all remember that song? Looking for love in all the wrong places, right? Some of you, you've literally been looking for the right thing in the wrong someone or the wrong place. For many of us, maybe it's not love. It's just you've been looking for that right thing. You've been looking for intimacy. You've been looking for purpose. You've been looking for value and worth. You've just been looking in the wrong place. So the first question I ask you today is, what are you searching for? And the second question today is this, is where are you going to find it? Where are you going to find what you are searching for? Are you going back to the internet and scrolling images to try to find the intimacy that you're longing for? Are you looking for the next him or the next her? Maybe God has you in a marital relationship, but you're looking for somebody else at your job or your work to do for you what you cannot seem to find right now in your life? Are you looking for the next job promotion and the next purchase? Are you looking at the stock market right now and you're freaking out because where you're going to find contentment and peace and happiness is what's happening with our money and our culture and our society? I mean, where are you going to find it? Because again, hardwired into our DNA is we're looking for the right things in all the wrong places. You know how I know it's true? Because this is really the story as old as the very beginning of time. If you were to go all the way back to the Garden of Eden, God creates man and woman. He creates Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis, right? And he says, Adam and Eve, I'm giving you free dominion over all of this amazing, beautiful creation. In the garden, they're given this unbelievable, intimate relationship with God. They can literally walk with God, communicate with God, talk with God. There was no sin at this time. There was no shame. There was no guilt. I mean, imagine being able to come to God, have nothing in between you and God. Nothing you feel like maybe God knows. God knows what I did last night. God knows what I said. I mean, there was no reason to hide, no guilt, no shame. God says, I'm giving you free dominion to live under this amazing blessing that I have for you. But listen, Adam and Eve get to this place that what God had given them wasn't enough. They had God. They had everything that God had given them. And God says, you can have all of it, but I want you to abstain from just the fruit of this one tree, just this one tree. Now, isn't our focus immediately, well, what's that one tree offer? We forget about the hundreds and the thousands of trees that God had given them and all the free dominion that God had given them over this land. It's like, well, what about that thing? Well, what am I missing? Some of you would say, well, why would Adam and Eve search for something else? When they had God, they had everything they could ever want. They had the blessings of God. They had the intimacy with God. They had this incredible a garden that God had given them. Why would they search for anything else? And I'd ask you the same question. For those of us who claim to have God today, if we have God in our life, then why are you and I searching and trying to find what it is that we're looking for in all these other places and all these other things? If God is enough, then why isn't he often enough for us? So what happens with Eve and Adam? They're in the garden. They're beginning to contemplate about, do we have enough? Is there something more out there? And look what it says in Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. It says, when the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye. Let's just stop right there. Isn't this where it all begins for us? Isn't it where we're in this search of something and all of a sudden there's this ache within our souls? We don't feel like we have enough. We're lacking something. We're searching for something more. All of a sudden, something pleasing catches our eye, isn't it? I mean, this is where it starts. It's a him. It's a her. It's that thing. It's an object. That thing will do it for me. That person will do it. It catches our eye. It's the lust of the eye. If I just had that, I would finally be happy. If I could just get there, we would finally have peace. If we just got to that status, I would finally have what I'm looking for. If I could just find the right person. And then we get that thing and it doesn't do it for us, does it? Right? It says Adam and Eve, same issue. They're looking, longing, trying to find something else. And it says, and they also desired for gaining wisdom, right? They were desiring to gain wisdom. So what does it do? It says, she took some of the fruit and she ate it, and she also gave it some of it to her dumb husband, Adam, who stood there the whole time, watched her, and he ate some as well, right? Is that what it says? It does, right? And so what did they do? They were longing for something more. But what was she longing for? It says she was longing for wisdom. You know what wisdom is? Wisdom isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, right? I mean, the book of Proverbs says if you and I want wisdom, we could just ask God for it, and he would give it to us. What was she doing? She was looking for the right thing in the wrong place. She was going to the wrong source to give her what God himself desired to give to her. I want to start with the definition today of sin, because this is the moment when sin falls on the world. This is the moment when sin enters the world. Sin is when you and I choose our own path. We choose our own way. We choose what we want over what God wants. But I want to give you a definition, a working definition today, and that's this. Write this down. Sin is searching for the right thing in the wrong places. Sin is searching for the right thing in the wrong places. How many of us right now, if you're on our Hope Church online platform, how many of you right now could just put a hand in the air, get a little amen right now, say that you have ever searched for the right thing in the wrong place? Come on, how many of us? I've done it more times than I can count. I'll probably do it today. Might even do it tomorrow. There are so many times that I have searched for the right thing: acceptance, love, value, worth, purpose, meaning, whatever it is in life, contentment. I've tried to find it in all these other things instead of finding it in God. Eve could have easily just went to God for wisdom, but instead, where does she go? She ends up going to the enemy. She ends up going to the world to find what only God could ultimately provide for her life. That's where so many of us are today. We are searching. We are longing for the world and for people and for things to provide something that only God can really satisfy within our souls. You know what happens? The more we begin to discover that thing that we are searching after is not found in a him or a her or a they or a status or a purchase or whatever it might be, we start to get desperate, don't we? And we start to convince ourselves that just more of whatever that thing is will finally make us happy. More of money, more of possessions, more of status, more of relationships. And so we continue this almost glutton for punishment cycle of looking and searching and longing. And so we start to get desperate. You know what I know about desperate people? Is desperate people do desperate things. Desperate people are what we would call in our culture thirsty people. In fact, I heard Pastor Mike Todd, he pastors Transformation Church down in Oklahoma. If you don't know who Pastor Mike Todd is, you should. He's amazing. And he was speaking one Sunday about thirsty people. And there is a word in our culture today for people who are longing for something, they're searching for something, they're desperate for something, and it's this word thirsty. And so to kind of get all of us caught up, culturally relevant, I went to the Urban Dictionary this week and I defined the word thirsty for us. And it says this: thirsty is someone who is so desperate that they try to garner attention by putting on or fishing for compliments, attention, or acceptance. You ever been thirsty before? Come on. You ever been thirsty before? You ever done something to garner attention as a kid, as a teenager, as a 40-something-year-old adult? Come on. You say, I've never been thirsty before. You ever posted a selfie before, right? You're thirsty, bro, right? Why we post selfies? We want somebody just to affirm us, somebody to validate us. You ever made something with your hands and then immediately posted a picture about it? Why? Because we want somebody to acknowledge what we've done. We're looking for attention. We're looking for acceptance. We're thirsty, right? And this is what happens, is when you and I get to a place where we become thirsty, when we're longing, we get desperate. Again, I said, desperate people do desperate things. You ever been so desperate in your search for something that you did something really stupid? I have, right? I mean, you ever had a really stupid purchase because maybe you were trying to impress somebody, maybe you were trying to live outside your means, maybe you were trying to make yourself feel a little better, and so you went out, you did something desperate. You ever did something with your body that you never would have initially done, but you were longing to be loved, you were longing to be cared for, you were longing to have intimacy with someone? You ever allowed yourself to do something desperate, go to some images online that you swore you would never go back to, go to a substance, go someplace you never thought you would go? Because why? Desperate people are thirsty people who are longing for something. The only problem is we keep going to this source that was never meant to quench our thirst. And all the while, we are paying for something. We're paying for it, which is our lives, our soul, pieces of ourselves that we're giving away, right? We are literally paying for something that God has already paid to provide for us. We are longing for this thirst we have to be quenched and something that God through Jesus has already given that would quench our greatest thirst. That's my prayer for you today. My prayer is that in our time together today, whatever you are thirsting for, whatever you're searching for, that you would understand this endless pursuit of trying to find it out there will never be found. It is only truly found in Jesus, through Jesus, because of Jesus today. That's the hope we have for you. I told you growing up, I did some stupid things, some horrible things that I regret, things that literally I have scars from. And the amazing part about a scar is a healed wound. I believe that in Jesus, all of my wounds have been healed. But it doesn't mean that scar still doesn't have a story of pain to tell. When you tell the story about how you got that scar and what happened and what you went through. And my prayer today is that in our time together, if I could just help rescue somebody from the scars and wounds of life, then that would be my ultimate prayer for you today. And that for some of you who have those scars and wounds, that God would just rescue you and heal you and that you would allow him to do that. I don't want you to fill your life with just meaningless stuff. Listen, another pair of shoes is not going to do it for you. Another purchase is not going to do it for you. Another job promotion is not going to do it for you. Another relationship is not going to do it for you. A bigger house, not going to do it for you. Some of you have such beautiful homes. Let's be honest. Some of you don't even want to go home because it feels so empty inside. And you hate the life that's happening inside that place. I want you to find healing today. I want you to find hope today. I want you to be able to overcome the thirst that lies inside of you. We're going to spend our remaining time together today in the book of John. We're going to be in John chapter 4. If you grew up around church, if you grew up and maybe as a kid and went to church, maybe went to vacation Bible school, you're probably familiar with this story. If you didn't go to church, it's okay. We're going to tell you the whole story today. It's a story known as the woman at the well or the Samaritan woman. It's an incredible story. In fact, I was reading through the book of John earlier this year. In fact, back in November. In fact, it was November 18th, 2019 of this year. I was reading through the book of John. And I stumbled across a passage in John chapter 4 that we'll get to in just a few moments. And I sent this to my staff and I said, hey, at some point this year, I'm teaching on this passage. I had no idea that it would be Easter Sunday. But I just believe today that God is going to overwhelm you through this story with his grace and his love and mercy. And so this story about this woman at the well is about this woman who's going to have this encounter with Jesus. She's going to show up to this well. She's got a practical need. She shows up because she's thirsty. She has this physical need. She has something that literally she needs to be met, right? She's showing up to have this thing quenched. And what she's going to leave with is having her greatest need met. She's going to have this appointment with Jesus that she wasn't expecting, right? She shows up to this well doing what she had done every single day. And in this moment, she's going to have this appointment with Jesus who's going to totally change her life. And my prayer for you today, my prayer for no matter where you are in this moment is that some of you just tuned in for an Easter message. You just showed up here today, and maybe you showed up with a tangible need. Maybe you got this practical need about a broken relationship or a health scare or financial situation. You're going to show up with a practical need, and what you're going to leave with is having your greatest need met through having an encounter with Jesus. And I believe that's what's going to happen for many of you today. And so what we know in this story is that Jesus is with his disciples. He's traveling from Jerusalem to Galilee. Now, in between Jerusalem and Galilee is an area called Samaria, right? And so what would happen historically is Jesus was a Jew, and Jews and Samaritans hated one another. And so historically, Jews, as they would make the trek from Jerusalem to Galilee, they would actually travel about 1.5 miles to 2 miles out of the way because they did not want to go through Samaria. And so this worked both ways, right? Jews and Samaritans avoided each other because they hated one another. As they're journeying from Jerusalem to Galilee, Jesus says to his disciples, he says, hey guys, why don't you go ahead to the next town? You guys go ahead and grab lunch. I have some business to tend to here in Samaria. And you know, the disciples got to be thinking like, what kind of business could Jesus be tending to? Like we don't associate with Samaritans. Why in the world would Jesus put himself in this situation? Maybe you're asking yourself the same question. Why would Jesus walk away from his disciples to go have this appointment with this woman? Here's what I know that my Bible tells me is that Jesus will always walk away from the 99 and chase after the one. And for you today, you might just be the one that Jesus has been chasing after. And if anything today, maybe just possibly this message is just for you today. Maybe what you're going to experience today is that divine appointment with Jesus today. Watch what happens. John chapter 4, verse 6. It says, Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat wearily beside the well, and it was about noontime. Now this is so important because historically, for Jesus to be sitting at the well at noon, waiting for this appointment, nobody would have showed up. You know why? Because nobody went to the well in the Middle East even now during noontime. Why? Because noontime is at the heat of the day. I don't know about you, but in June, July, August, and even into September, and sometimes even into October, here in Central North Carolina, I ain't doing nothing in the middle of the day outside. Like, I feel bad for some of you who mow grass for a living and you have to be out there in noontime or 1 o'clock. Literally, if I'm mowing grass, it's going to be in the morning. It's going to be in the evening because I'm not going outside in the noonday. Why? Because it's hot. And during this day, it was hot. So why in the world is Jesus, just by chance? Some of you think it's just by chance you showed up here on Hope Church Online today. No, not just by chance Jesus shows up at noontime. Now, at noontime, we're going to see in just a moment, there's going to be this Samaritan woman who's going to show up to draw water from the well. Now, listen, in this day, historically, women were tasked with the responsibility of going to get the water for the day for their kids, for their family, for washing, for needs. And women would usually travel in groups, and they would go together in the cool of the morning and get the water for the day. They'd come back and do it each day over and over again. So for this woman to show up at noon, obviously, Jesus knew she was going to be there. But this woman, you have to ask yourself, why in the world is she showing up at noontime? For her to show up at noon would be almost her way of showing up in kind of the nooks and crannies, kind of in the shadows, because she knew it was the best opportunity for her to show up and not be seen by anyone. Listen, you say, well, why in the world would she want to show up to the well and not be seen? We're going to discover in just a few moments, this woman has a marred past. She's gone through some difficulties. She's gone through some hardships, and she wants to avoid the judgmental glares and stares of everybody else from the city. Can I be honest? Some of you today have avoided places like church because you want to avoid the judgment and the glares and the stares of those who are going to look at you and think they're better than you. Can I just be honest with you? I am so honored to be part of a family here at Hope Church that has never gotten over the grace of God. Hope Church, I better hear you right now online, right? I better hear you right now that we've never gotten over the grace of what God has done for us, that we're all a bunch of jacked up sinners who don't have our life together, and we never give stares of judgment because none of us have ever gotten over the cross of Jesus and what he's done to forgive each and every one of us. Watch what happens here. It says, soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, please give me a drink. Now, I need you to understand something. As this woman is approaching the well, she sees there's a man there. She has to. And you have to understand this woman's been abused by men, we'll find out. She's been taken advantage of by men. She's got some baggage. So you know as she's walking up, she's already thinking, I don't want this man to look at me. I don't want him to see me. He's going to see me for who I am. So you know she's got her head down. She feels guilt. She feels shame. And then she sees she's a Jew. And she already knows that she's hated for her past. And now she's going to be hated for the color of her skin. She's going to be hated for who she is. And you know she's got to be feeling this moment. In this moment, she's feeling, I have no worth. I have no value. No one cares. And I want to show you the grace of God, because the grace of God engages her before she ever even thought she was worthy enough to be engaged by him. I want you to know today, no matter where you are, no matter where you sit today, no matter what you've done, no matter how dark it is, no matter how grim it is, the grace of God will speak to you in this moment. For some of you, he already is. He is speaking to your heart. He's speaking into your soul, and he's speaking a message of love and grace today, and he is drawing you into his voice. Now what happens? Verse 9, it says this. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans, she said to Jesus. You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. She says, why are you asking me for a drink? She's surprised. Again, because of this racism that existed, why in the world would you talk to me? Jesus, why would you engage me? Some of you said, why would Jesus ever talk to someone? Why would he ever care about someone like me? Now, verse 10 for me, I'm telling you, this is what I was talking about earlier. When I was reading through John chapter 4 earlier this year, back in November, man, I had read through this passage a million times. I'm sure I read this verse a million times. But when I read John chapter 4, verse 10, it was like Jesus was just smacking me in the face. Now, I pray right now this will be a profound moment for so many of you. Look at Jesus' response to her. He says, girl, if you only knew the gift that God has for you. And I will tell you right now, if some of you only knew right now the gift that God has for your life, what he wants to do through you, what he wants to do through your past, what he wants you to overcome. If you only knew the gift that God has for you and who it is you're speaking to, if you only knew what I was capable of, if you only knew who I was, if you only knew who Jesus was today, he said, you would ask me and I would give you living water. He says, if you knew who I was today, if you knew what I had for you, if you knew what I could do in your life, I wouldn't be the one asking you for water. You'd be begging me for water because I have something for your life. I would say if you only knew the goodness of Jesus today, if you only knew the hope that he offered, if you only knew the gift that he had, then you wouldn't show up here. You wouldn't show up here today thinking that he owes you anything. You wouldn't, right? You would show up here saying, give me whatever you have. I want to tap into the hope. I want to tap into the life that you have for me. He says, listen, if you knew who I was, you knew what I was capable of, you would just simply ask me. Now, in this moment, this Samaritan woman begins to understand we're no longer talking about just physical water. We're no longer talking about this practical need that I have of water. We're talking about something different. Jesus has brought living water into the conversation. Look at her response. Verse 11, she says, but sir, you don't have a rope. And sir, you don't have a bucket, right? She said, and this well is very deep. Look what she says. You don't have a rope. You don't have a bucket. And this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water from? Now, it's easy for us to think about this well and think she's talking physically about this well, thinking you don't have the tools. But in this moment, something clicks. She begins to look at this man saying, you're talking about living water. You're talking about actually being filled. You're talking about having my greatest needs met. She begins to look at Jesus. She says, look, you don't have the tools. You don't have the ability to meet my greatest needs. You don't have what it takes to meet me where I am. You don't have what it takes to deal with my pain. You don't know the scars that I have, Jesus. You don't know what's been said about me. You don't know what people have done to me. I don't think she doesn't know who Jesus is in this moment. I don't think you have what it takes to fix my greatest need. I think some of you right now, this is where you are with Jesus. Some of you look at your hurts and pains and heartaches. You look at where you've been. You look at your past. You look at what you've gone through and you say, Jesus, what about the divorce? You don't have what it takes to get me through that situation. What about the affair that I walked through? What about the abortion I went through as a teenager? What about the miscarriage? What about the loss? What about the bankruptcy? What about the pain? What about the embarrassment that I've gone through? What about the partners that I've had and how I feel and the worth and the wounds that I have? What about the abuse that I went through that I did not sign up for? Jesus, you don't have what it takes. You don't have what it takes to fill my greatest need, Jesus. You don't have what it takes to really heal me, to meet me right where I am, Jesus. You don't have what it takes to ultimately fill my greatest need in this life. You don't have what it takes. Look at what Jesus says to her. Jesus responds. He said this, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. So Jesus looks at the well in this moment. He says, you showed up here today to draw some water out. He says, you keep drinking from that well right there. He says, and you're going to be thirsty again. Why do you have to show up every day? Every day, all these women are showing up because they got to get water for the day. You need water to continue to live life. He says, but you keep drinking. In other words, the way you've been drinking, he's not talking about physical water anymore. You keep showing up and searching the way you've been searching. You keep showing up looking for the things you've been looking for, and you're going to continue to be thirsty. You keep looking to him, to her, to them today. You keep drinking from culture and society and the world and the economy. You keep looking at the news. You keep looking at relationships. You keep looking at success. It's not going to quench your thirst. You're going to continue to find yourself paying for something that he says, I've already come to give you. It will never fully satisfy your soul. Now, when I think about never fully having my thirst quenched, I think back a few years ago. I was a big Diet Coke drinker. We got any Diet Coke drinkers at home today? I still love a good Diet Coke. I used to drink way too much Diet Coke. And I used to kind of believe the myth that Diet Coke was healthier than regular Coke, right? Because it's diet. And so I would drink a lot of it. I would consume a lot. I would drink a lot of it. So I'd have like a really hot day or maybe outside working. And man, nothing like, man, just that. Come on, hear the noise right here. Hold on. I mean, even in the moment, there's almost something spiritual about that moment right there. I mean, it's just like, oh man, it's just something overwhelms you. You're outside, just an ice cold Coke on a hot day. Just something about it, right? You're out playing with the kids. And I found myself, though, I would drink this Coke. Oh man, it's refreshing, right? I drink the Coke. And I would get to the bottom of it. And then a few minutes later, I was thirsty again. And throughout the day, I would find myself drinking over and over and over. And I found myself, there was days, man, I'll be honest with you, I would drink 6, 7, 8 Diet Cokes in a day. And I found that I was drinking more than I normally would have drank because it wasn't quenching my thirst. Now here I was paying for this thing, right? To do this thing that I was expecting it to do. But the reality is that it was never created to quench my thirst. In fact, I could get mad at it. I could cuss at it. I could blame it. But the reality is that this thing was never meant to actually quench my thirst, to give me what I was longing for. Some of you today, you know that thing that you keep going back to was never created to do for you what you're expecting it to do. You're expecting it to quench your thirst, but it cannot provide for you what you are ultimately looking for. Jesus says, in me, I can quench this thirst you have within you, and you will never long for anything else. Look what he says in verse 14. He says, but those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. Jesus says, I'm not trying to give you temporary life. I'm not trying to give you temporary happiness. I'm not trying to give you a facade of happiness. I'm trying to give you something that allows you to never thirst again. You don't have to keep coming back. When I think about something that really quenches my thirst, I remember back being a kid, and I remember my parents were like really abusive parents. I say that facetiously, but like in the summer, they would pack, me and my brother Tim, they would pack our lunch. They would send us outside. They would lock the door, and they would say, go play. They hated us, right? They'd say, no video games, no hanging out indoors. We live out on some land, just go play. They'd send us out. And I remember saying this, what happens if I get thirsty? My mom would say, well, go over and use the spigot. You know what a spigot is, right? She said, use the spigot. Now, we grew up at a house that had a well. We have a well at our house now. And there was something about just cranking up that spigot, right? Pulling the handle up and drinking straight out of the spigot. And so we'd be outside running around. And some of y'all are freaking out right now. This is how we did it. And you'd be hot and you'd be parched and you'd be dying for something to drink. And to just turn on that spigot, I just drink straight from it, right? And there was just something about that ice cold water coming straight out of the ground. Like, y'all live in the city. I don't know nothing about no city tap water, man. That stuff is disgusting. Like, again, at our house, well water, it's cold. It just tastes better. It's just something about it, right? And I would just be drinking. I'd throw it on my face, throw it on my hand. And what I discovered is until I cut it off, until I said enough, right, the water would just keep flowing and it would keep quenching my thirst. I believe the same thing is illustrated today in Jesus. He's saying, I want to provide something that will continue to quench that thirst. And I will give you enough. I will give you more than you'll be able to understand. And the only thing that could ever make it stop is when you just turn the handle off and say, I've had enough. He says, that's what I want to do in your life. That's what I'm providing for you. I want to provide for you an everlasting quenching of your thirst. Look at what she says in verse 15. She says, please, sir, the woman said, give me this water. Then I will never be thirsty again. In other words, I won't have to keep looking for the things that I've been looking for. I won't have to keep searching. I won't have to be thirsty. Give me this water and I won't have to come here to get water any longer. She's saying, I won't have to come to this place of being vulnerable. I won't have to come to this place of shame. If there is this water, give it to me because I need it in life. And some of you, that's what you're saying. If there is this hope, if there is this peace, if there is this purpose, then Tad, give it to me. Give it to me because I'm exhausted and I'm tired and I'm sick of going through this life and searching and feeling empty over and over and over again. Give it to me. She says, you want it? She says, absolutely. And watch how he switches gears on her in verse 16. He says, go and get your husband, Jesus told her. Now they're having this personal conversation, right? About what she thinks is her tangible need, right? Now I want you to remember, she came with a practical need. She came for some water. But Jesus was not there to meet what she thought was her practical need. He was there to meet her deepest need. I need you to understand something about Jesus today. I need you to understand when it comes to Jesus, is that you and I often think, well, Jesus is just going to give me what I want. Jesus is not in the business of giving you what you want. He's in the business of giving you what you need the most. Watch what happens in verse 17 and 18. She says, I don't have a husband. The woman replied, and Jesus said, you're right. You don't have a husband. He says, for you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. And then she says this, you certainly spoke the truth. In this moment, Jesus says, listen, I came to meet your greatest need. And what I need you to understand today is this conversation about me meeting you right where you are is I got to address first where you've been going and what you've been searching for and where you've been trying to find it, right? I need you to know before Jesus will ever get to a place of truly giving you what you need, he's got to address what you've been searching for and where you've been trying to go to find it. If you want to be fully satisfied in Jesus today, I need you to know this. You can write this down. Jesus never satisfies your need without first addressing your sin. This is just how he works. It's not because he's cruel. It's not because he's a jerk. It's not because he's trying to shame you or guilt you. That's not what he was trying to do. He's saying, I need you to know, if you're ever fully going to be satisfied in me, then you've got to acknowledge the place you've been going to try to find that need to be filled, that only I can. I need you to acknowledge it's not working for you. So in this moment, Jesus is not trying to shame her or guilt her or call her out. He's getting her to acknowledge where she's gone to try to find her fulfillment, what she's looked for. He said, you tried to find it in men. You try to find it in relationships, fill in the blank. You tried to find it in success, in money, in possessions, in clout, in popularity, whatever it is. He says, I need you to know, I need you to understand it will never be found in those things. It is only found in me and me alone. I need you to know who I am, and I want to fully satisfy your greatest need in life. Listen, Jesus wanted to address her at her point of sin. But he wasn't there in that moment again to shame or guilt her, and he wasn't there to even try to fix her sin. Some of you have been told this lie that in order for you to come to Jesus, you got to clean it up or dress it up, or that the church is going to try to change you. Jesus says, listen, we'll worry about the habits later. I want your heart. He said, just give me your heart. Trust that I am the source that you are longing for. You've been looking for the right thing and the wrong places. I want you to find the right thing and the right place with the right source today, and I want you to find it in me. We'll worry about the outward, we'll worry about the heart, we'll worry about where you're going, we'll worry about what's happening in your life, we'll worry about your wounds and scars later. Let's just start with your heart first. Look what happens in verse 28. It says, the woman left her water jar beside the well. So the one thing she showed up thinking she needed was water. She brought a device, a water jar, whatever it was, to put the water in. She leaves it beside Jesus. Why? Because she came with this need, but she left with her greatest need being met. And she ran back to the village telling everyone, come and see. And this is the heartbeat of our church. Come and see. You want to know about the hope of Jesus? You know about the love and grace of Jesus? Just come and see. A man who told me everything I ever did with grace and love and mercy and forgiveness. Could he possibly be the Messiah? So the people came streaming from the village to see him. This is what Jesus wants to do in your life. He wants you to get to a place where all the longing and all the searching ends in him and him alone. And everything you've been searching for, everything you've been longing for, you will find in him and him alone. He wants to do something in your life. He wants to heal you at your greatest point of need. He wants to heal your wounds. He wants to heal your scars. He wants to overwhelm you with grace and forgiveness and love. And he wants to do a work in your life that doesn't just impact you, but it impacts others. Jesus did a work in her life that she couldn't keep to herself. Because of the hope that Jesus had offered her, man, she had to go tell somebody else about it. This is the simple good news of the hope of Jesus. Jesus came into this world to offer hope to you. This Easter message, this Easter season is about a God who loved you so much, who looked down at you and I and our sin, us looking for all the right things and all the wrong places, has separated us from God. And this distance kept us from God. But God loved you and I so much that he said, this isn't acceptable. I refuse distance to keep us apart. So God said, I have a way. I have a plan. God sent his very own son, Jesus, to invade this earth. Jesus came on a rescue mission to live the life that you and I could not live, to live a perfect life, a sinless life, to be the sacrifice, the atonement for our sins. He came to pay the penalty that you and I deserve. He went to a cross. It tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 that he who knew no sin became sin for you and I. Jesus on the cross bore our sins. It says in Isaiah 53 that by his wounds, by his stripes, you and I are healed. All of your wounds, all of your baggage, all of your scars in Jesus was healed on a cross. It says in the cross of Jesus, he bore every dirty, awful thing that's ever happened to you and I, and he poured out his life for us. Poured out his life for us. In the last few moments of Jesus' life on a cross, he would say something that's very famous. He would cry out to his Father. He'd say, Father, in this moment, I give my spirit up to you. And he said these words, he'd say, it is finished. In this moment, the mission why you sent me, all the grace, all the love, all the hope is being poured out. It is finished. But I want you to notice something he says in John